Next item on the agenda is statement by the Vice President of the Commission, High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, situation in the broader Middle East region, including the crisis in Iran, Iraq, and Lebanon. I remind you that it is possible to request Catch the Eye and blue cards using both the standard registration and the electronic system. Instructions are available at the entrance of the hemicycle. For blue card requests, though, they are accepted only after the round of the speakers on behalf of the political groups. The debate will be opened by the Vice President of the Commission, High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Mrs. Mogherini. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The streets of the Middle East, in Baghdad, in Beirut, in Tehran, and other cities have witnessed large demonstrations, which in all countries are still ongoing. Events are unfolding, and each case is different, yet there seem to be some common causes. The triggers have been specific policy initiatives, but the protests have then expanded, targeting inequality, sectarianism and corruption, and asking for better governance and better job opportunities. Our response to these protests has common elements too. We have condemned any act of violence from all parties. We have urged restraint in handling the demonstrations. We have asked for respect for freedom of expression and prompt investigation of instances of violence. We've also demanded that external actors always respect this country's sovereignty. Now, let me briefly comment on a few specific cases, the ones you mentioned on the title of the debate. First, on Iraq. The challenges that Iraq is facing are unique. The country is finally coming out of a long conflict. It needs reconciliation and reconstruction. It also needs to deliver on its people's aspirations to a better life and better opportunities for all. These expectations need to be fulfilled if Iraq is to stabilise in the long term. And I've seen myself during my last visit there in July, if I'm not wrong, how far the country has gone when it comes to being ready to work on reconciliation and reconstruction, but also how fragile this progress is. And I think we are now seeing this clearly. From the beginning of the protests, we asked for dialogue and steps to quickly address the protesters' concerns, including those steps suggested by the UN mission. This is even more urgent today. We also continue to encourage Iraq to maintain its policy of constructive engagement with all its neighbours in times when its role as a voice of wisdom is essential in the region. We Europeans have always said that we want to help the people of Iraq win the peace. And this is what the people of Iraq are asking right now. So we will continue to be on their side and to accompany Iraq on its path towards a stronger, more inclusive and more just democracy. In Iran, the recent protests also stem from genuine frustration with the current economic hardships. Citizens have the right to peacefully demonstrate, and there is no justification for the disproportionate use of violence by the security forces. All reports of incidents deserve swift and full investigation by the relevant independent authorities. I also want to emphasise that we expect the Iranian authorities to ensure the free flow of information and access to the internet at all times. Let me add something that is clear and obvious, but it's important to clarify this once again, that this has nothing to do and should have nothing to do with the implementation of the nuclear deal with Iran. We continue to fully believe in the diplomatic and security value of the JCPOA, of the nuclear deal with Iran, yet it is no secret that the preservation of this agreement has become increasingly difficult. And let me announce today that we will have a joint commission with Iran that will be convened at deputy level on December the 6th to this end. As you know, together with the role of High Representative also comes the role of a coordinator of the Joint Commission of the JCPOA, of the nuclear deal with Iran. And we have worked in this capacity so far very hard to keep the unity, not only of the Europeans, that has been done, but also of the participants to the nuclear deal that have remained in the agreement after the US withdrew. And I believe this unity is key to preserve the agreement as much as possible. We all agreed just a few weeks ago that we may spare no energy to preserve the deal. And let me also say that I wish my successor all the best as he takes over also this difficult, essential role that of coordinating the Joint Commission of the JCPOA. Third, and last but not least at all, let me say a few words on Lebanon, where protests have led to the Prime Minister's resignation. Lebanon is a very special partner for the European Union, and it holds a very special place in our heart. Today, the people of Lebanon are asking for good governance and good governance, beyond any sectarian line. And this is truly inspiring, as Lebanon society often is. It is urgent to address the demands of the Lebanese people, while preserving the peace and the stability that Lebanon has so hardly achieved in all these years. This calls first and foremost for the swift formation of a functioning government to ensure political and economic stability, followed by the rapid and decisive implementation of effective reforms on governance and corruption, in line with the Lebanese people's aspiration. This moment can become somehow an opportunity to deliver the reforms that Lebanon so urgently needs, while at the same time preserving the country's stability and resilience. And let me add one word on something that is not on our focus specifically tonight, but is still there. Let us not forget that the whole Middle East remains an incredibly fragile place. We just discussed the situation in Israel and Palestine. Let us not forget that the situation in Syria is still far from being settled. On the contrary, in the northwest of Syria, the situation has got worse once again, only a few weeks after the Turkish military operation opened a new front in the northeast of Syria. So regional tensions are still running high, and this is putting even more importance and pressure on those in the region and beyond the region that are trying to calm down the situation and find sustainable outcomes to the current dynamics. In these years, we've been trying to build multilateral solutions to all crises in the region, and we have worked very closely with our partners, including Lebanon and Iraq, to stabilise those countries, to bring investment for reconstruction and economic growth, and to support these countries in their reform agendas. Each of these countries will have to find its own way to overcome their current difficulties. Nobody can do it for them. But the European Union will continue, I believe, to support dialogue and accompany reforms. It is one of the regions that are closest to us. I often say it's our common region, and the European Union, I believe, will continue to engage as a reliable partner and as a force for peace in the Middle East. Thank you.